Hello, it's Amy from Buttercake. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I make my Swiss meringue buttercream, which I use for most things that I decorate. Get started with some egg whites. Here I'm just separating the yolk from the whites. Now this is my full batch of buttercream. You obviously can cut it in half or quarters, whatever you need, depending on what your project is. This will fill and frost an entire 8-inch 3-layer cake. Once you get your egg whites in there, that was 12 egg whites, it's going to be 2 cups of granulated sugar that you add to that. It seems like a lot of sugar, but when it's all whipped up, it's not a super sweet buttercream, not like a traditional American buttercream. Here on medium-high heat, my saucepan is filled about halfway with water. And then I put the egg white and sugar mixture on that and whisk it up a little bit. You want whatever saucepan you're using for the bowl to fit snugly on it, obviously, so it's not moving around and being wonky. Giving that a little bit of a whisk. It's pretty thick in the beginning. As it heats up, though, it'll break down and get a lot thinner. But I just want to incorporate everything here as best as I can so that none of my egg whites cook as it's heating up. You can see it gets a little bit frothy on the top. That's as it warms up. You can use a thermometer. If you're going to pasteurize the egg whites, you want to get it to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. 120 degrees, your sugar will melt. You can work with it there if it's going to go on something that's going to be eaten right away or kept in the refrigerator. But 160 for things like cupcakes that might sit out at room temp. Then you want to whisk it until it comes back down to room temperature. It's going to be really hot if you get it up to 160. So it's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes on your mixer just to cool back down. Now I'm starting it out on low speed because it is so thin that you don't want it to fly up out of the bowl. It's very, very hot. Once it gets foamy on top, then I bump it up another speed to get some more air in there. But I kind of take this process a little bit slow, so that I'm not flinging anything out of the bowl. Now here, it's starting to become really frothy and whippy and just obviously not as translucent. So this is the point where I bump it up to medium-high speed to finish the aeration process. You can see it's starting to leave tracks, but this is still like a really, really soft peak. Now at this point, it is really nice and fluffy. We've got firm peaks here. You can see how glossy it is. Very marshmallowy, very stiff. That's what we're looking for. And when you touch your bowl, you want to make sure that it is like room temperature. It can be very slightly warm, but not hot by any means. Now I'm putting it back on low speed. I start my mixer on low speed before I put it back in, just to keep the meringue from gathering up around the top of the whisk. The butter, you want it to be a very soft room temperature. Like you want to be able to just squish it around like Play-Doh. It needs to be very, very soft. Otherwise, it's not going to whip up to the correct volume. With your mixer on low speed, though, you can get all of your butter in there, just a whole stick at a time. It's totally fine. If you have big 1-pound blocks, you're going to want to cut those and make them a little bit smaller. That is unsalted butter. You can see here at this point, now that all my butter is in there, that it's starting to look a little more deflated or kind of just like soupy, just, not as nice and fluffy, but that's totally fine. This is normal. This is what it's going to look like. See some chunks of the butter in there, but you just want to scrape everything really well to make sure you're getting all your meringue in there or any little bits of butter that might have become stuck on the top edge. And then you can put your mixer onto medium-high speed again to fully get that butter incorporated in there. This is the final stage of the buttercream. Now at this point too, you'll see me add in some vanilla extract. If you want to add flavorings, you can add it at this point. You can add it at the very end. If you want to add them to taste, that's totally up to you. I generally know how much vanilla I'm going to be adding. Now, things for like maple or almond extract, I add those at the very end just so I can add a little bit and taste it and make sure it's the right amount. But adding your extract in at this point isn't going to ruin your buttercream. So go ahead and add it in now if you feel like it. You're going to see that the buttercream looks separated, looks kind of curdled. That is totally normal, all part of the process. Here's a nice close-up. Looks like cottage cheese. Looks like you ruined it. I promise you, you did not. And if your meringue isn't as hot and your butter is a little bit more firm, if it's looking very curdled, let your buttercream sit for about 20 minutes, then come back to it at 20 minutes and try whipping it on high speed again. That way it'll help even the temperature out a little bit. A lot of the times with meringue buttercreams, people think they ruined it because it looks separated, but really it's probably either your meringue was too warm and it needed to cool down a little bit more, or your butter was too cold and it needed to warm up a little bit more. So if that happens, just be patient. Again, let it sit for 20 minutes and come back. Now this is almost at the final stage. I was just giving it another good scrape around the top edge because the meringue likes to kind of cling up there and hang around. But yeah, getting it all in there. And then I'm lifting up the head of the mixer just a tiny bit. Don't go too far, and don't do it if you don't feel comfortable with it. Just scraping the bowl will do the same thing, but I just do that to get everything around the edges. You can see here the final product. It's very fluffy, very creamy, very light, absolutely delicious. At this point, you can use it immediately, or you can store it for up to 7 days in the refrigerator, or freeze it for up to a month in your regular home freezer. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Take care.